Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing, and today we've got a very stout combo to try out, and it's one that should give us a pretty nasty looking pattern downrange as well. These shells are probably one of the hardest recoiling 12 gauge loads that I've ever tested, but they typically do perform well, so maybe a little bit of trade-off here. Maybe the extra cost and recoil of them is worth it depending on what kind of pattern we see today. We've definitely got good potential, but we'll see what happens. But for the shells we've got today, I brought out some of these, the Winchester Double X buckshot loads, but these ones are the 12 gauge 3.5 inch 15 pellet load of double aught at about 1450 feet per second. Already a 3.5 inch shell is a very stout load in of itself, but when you're loading 15 pellets of double aught at 1450 for a velocity, this is easily top 3, if not number 1 or 2 for highest recoil loads that I've tried when it comes to 12 gauge anyway. But like I just said, they usually pattern pretty decently. They are more expensive with them being a 3.5 inch shell. I think a box of 5 is somewhere in the mid $20 price range, $24, $26, something like that. So you're looking at $5 a shell probably. So is it worth it or not to you? I guess we'll have to see what kind of pattern it gives through today's combination. But as for today's setup, I brought out the Mossberg 835 Ulti-Mag. This one's got a 28 inch barrel on it, and we've got a Kicks buck kicker full choke in here today. My exact buck kicker choke measures 739 constriction. I don't know that they advertise an exact constriction number for Kicks chokes sometimes. It's probably supposed to be either a 735 or a 740, but mine is 739. But if you don't know, the Mossberg 835 is an overboard shotgun. The barrel is 10 gauge diameter inside, so the choke constrictions also follow 10 gauge choke numbers. But this has been a very good buckshot performer if you find the right load for it, and we've seen a few good performances from this setup with those shells through other chokes, so I've got decent hopes for the Kicks for us today. But as for today's test, we're running it the same as we usually do. I've got the big sheet of paper set up at 40 yards, the chrono, so we can get our velocity, and the templates so we can lay up over our results. I expect this to be a pretty nasty load if it patterns the way I hope it does. So let's get you guys a view of that target. We'll take our shot and see what we're able to get. Alright, that shell gave us 1408 through the chrono. Boss claim is 1450. However, we do have an overboard shotgun as well. Sometimes that can play with velocities a little bit, but still, we're usually seeing in the 1400s from these shells based on our previous testing. So 1408 is not anything unusual. And still, for a 15 pellet load of double aught, that is more than enough velocity. If you're a 3.5 inch guy and love recoil, these are definitely going to give that to you as well. No question about it. But let's head down to our target and see what kind of pattern we actually got. All right, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and we definitely see some pretty nasty results here. Now, right off the bat, the white dot was the point of aim, and the paper's 36 inches wide. We definitely favored a little bit to the left, but I do think the hottest part of our pattern also favored the left edge of the pattern a little bit as well. Maybe this was the main portion of our pattern over here, and we just so happened to throw those 3 flyers around the outskirts just a little bit. But either way you look at it, this is a nasty pattern. If we center that up, we would have a very hot spread of double aught pellets down here all the way out to 40 yards with 3 that kind of did their own thing over there on the right. Now, even though we did favor to the left, this is all 15 pellets on the paper here, so we can see our entire pattern. I did measure the farthest 2 points across, which is that bottom rightmost pellet to the top leftmost pellet, is right at 20.5 inches. Well, we had 15 inches of spread pretty much up and down on our main 12 pellets over here on the left. So I always say anything 20 inches or better down at 40 yards is a good buckshot pattern, and we're at 20.5 overall and 15 for the main majority area of our pattern. So yeah, needless to say, that is going to absolutely be devastating. If you centered that pattern up a little bit better and took it out for a hunting scenario, there's not going to be much that makes it through that's for sure. So maybe not the prettiest looking pattern with those couple flyers and it being to the left, but still very nice to say the least. So let's throw a few templates up. We'll give it the benefit of the doubt and actually put the templates where the main portion of our pattern was, as if we had centered it up, because I think we're going to see some very nice results. First up, we have a 10-inch circle, and it would be a little straighter if we actually got down here level with it. But either way, we have 7 of the 15 pellets within a 10-inch circle at 40 yards. That is about half the shell. 7.5 would technically be half, but either way, 7 pellets of double aught at 1400 feet per second within a dinner plate at 40. That is going to be devastating for sure. You've got a decently even spread, maybe a little bit of a void kind of over there towards the 10, 11 o'clock range on that circle, but I don't think you can really complain too much about that. So now let's throw a couple animal templates up and just see how good it would have been if you took it out in the woods. So here's our deer template, and like I did mention a second ago, I did favor it a little bit to the left to actually line up a little better with where our pattern was. It's a little bit janky, but we can still get a good idea. And yeah, you've got all 12 of those main pellets right through the vital area on that deer, and even those 3 flyers would have probably still clipped something up in the neck area as well. If you centered that shot up, that would have been absolutely devastating, no question about it. I can almost guarantee you that deer would have dropped right there, and there probably wouldn't have been very much, if any, tracking to do at all. So obviously, more than good enough for a deer hunt scenario. If you're a 3.5-inch shell guy and don't mind the recoil and the added cost, it's certainly going to do the job through that combo any day of the week. And here's the hog template for you pig hunters down there in the south as well. Obviously, it's pretty well the same story. Plenty good enough for those scenarios as well. And I guess if you happen to be deer hunting or something and get a crack at a coyote, they would be a little smaller than this hog template, and you would still be putting 1400 feet per second worth of at least, I would say, 5 or 6 or more buckshot pellets through them. So they wouldn't take it too well either, that's for sure. So overall, for a copper plated and buffered load without a wad in it, that is a pretty nasty performance. It's got really good velocity behind it. It carries a good pattern, but you're going to feel it on the other end too, both in the recoil and the wallet at $5+ a shell. Do you need a 3.5-inch loading like this? No, definitely not. A regular 9 or 12 pellet loaded double aught, or you could even go to 15 pellets in a 3-inch shell. It's going to be cheaper and less recoil, and you're still going to be able to find a combo that holds this same kind of pattern. So it isn't necessary, but I know there's plenty of you guys out there that want the biggest thing they can get, and this might just be that. It's definitely one of the hardest recoiling loads that I've got, that's for sure. But either way, it did about what I was hoping it would. I wouldn't mind seeing those couple other flyers with the rest of them, but I don't think you can really complain about a couple of flyers when you've got a pattern like that. It's going to be devastating either which way. So nice results today overall. I wouldn't hesitate to take that on a deer hunt all day long, although I definitely wouldn't seek out a 3.5-inch shell over a 3-inch for any specific reason, that's for sure. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that performance right there? At this point, I think we've pretty well said everything that needs to be said, and I think it can kind of speak for itself. Even if we did pattern it a touch to the left on that paper, it really doesn't matter. We can see everything right there, and it's devastating for sure. The only real nitpicky thing we can say is those 3 flyers right there aren't exactly perfect. But even if you include those 3 flyers and the overall size of the pattern, we're still at 20.5 inches, and anything 20 inches or better is definitely a very nice buckshot pattern out to 40 yards. And obviously, if you're at closer ranges than that, it's going to be even more devastating. It's going to have those pellets nice and condensed down, and there's not going to be very much that makes it through that kind of a pattern with those pellets at that velocity. So do you need this shell to get good patterns or get good reliable performance in a hunting scenario? No, the 3.5-inch cost and recoil realistically probably isn't worth it, but if that's the kind of loading that you like and that you want to run, this combo is going to be a very solid performer for you. No questions asked. So leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested any of these Double X 3.5-inch double aught loads? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is this a pattern or a combo you would ever use? Or are you kind of like me, where you feel like 3.5-inch shells just aren't necessary and you'd rather run a 3-inch with the same kind of load? And maybe what other combos do you want to see me run when it comes to those buckshot loads or that particular shotgun and choke combo? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.